My name is Mark Brand. I'm the CEO of MB Inc. Save On Meats is our biggest flagship company and also multiple restaurants in Gastown, the downtown east side. My talk today was a Spark conversation, so it was modeled after the TED Talk and trying to invigorate people to talk about food security and innovation. I wanted people to walk away today understanding that it's not all top level. In conferences like this, I think that a lot of things get lost in the shuffle and it's not attainable for the regular person. What I talk about is community, interaction with your community, people who are less fortunate, marginalized folk, and then working in business with people without pigeonholing or stopping a conversation. And the area I work in, the downtown east side, is a topic of a real hotbed of activity of gentrification and worries about people being pushed out. And what I wanted people to take away with today was you can be in that higher bracket, not have that guilt, and try and work back in with the community because it needs as much of your help and understanding as it can, whereas the public perception is us versus them. With Save On Meats in particular, I don't hold my tongue. I'm not very good at being Canadian and towing the line of we're all doing this together. We set out to do a very specific thing. I did a couple of projects that were unpopular, one being the token program, which I got crucified for, and nationally. Basically saying that I was marginalizing and taking the choices away from people who were of a lower income bracket. So if somebody asks for money for food, that we should just give that to them and then they can make the decision, is what some folks would say. We know the statistics on that and where that money goes. It goes to alcohol, to drugs, and cigarettes the majority of the time. That being said, we created a program that wasn't transferable in the informal economy. So you couldn't take it to a drug dealer like a Starbucks card or a McDonald's card that said $5 or $10 or $20 and trade it for a rock or for a bag. It doesn't have a denomination. It's only worth $1.67. We also know most of the guys in the block, so we wouldn't accept stuff from them. Went out, best case scenario, I thought we'd do 5 to 7 a day. Within our first week, we were doing 80 to 120 redeemed for a hot sandwich that works with a barrier employment program, works with the neighborhood. That was the biggest problem people had with Save On, was me doing this. The language around it sucks, sure. But the Vancouver Coastal Health outreach nurses, it's currency for them. VPD, currency for them. PHS, Atira, et cetera, Carnegie, currency for them. It's become a staple because Save On is so trusted and the people who work there are very kind and understand barriers. So the heat that we had on us a year and a half ago is gone. I think working in any neighborhood that has challenges, and I would be hard-pressed to find one that's been more, polarized in the downtown east side, in Canada, in the world, working in neighborhoods like that, you have to build trust, put boots on the ground, actually do the work because they've been disappointed so many times. I knew that. I didn't get defensive ever, and my team didn't. We were just like, we'll be here for the conversation. And we've stuck through, and we are not going anywhere. I believe the food security, what the definition that we try to apply to it is nutritional food for all, literally everyone. So people living in old age homes, people living in SROs, us locally, living within a 2 or 3 block radius, so there are no food deserts. So for the people in the downtown east side in particular, why I took Save On Meats was if Save On left, you would have the options for bags of chips or soda pop or a $25 meal. And there wasn't much in between there. Only seafood had closed, a lot of the cafes had shuttered up as well, or were dens for people who would prey on them for narcotics. So we wanted to create something that was affordable, that didn't see people's social standing, because there's very few things that are there. And the notion of food security is also, if more people are involved in the conversation and understand how difficult it is to feed people in our own country versus sending money overseas, that we could create that conversation a little louder, a little bigger, and a little more polarized because we weren't traditional philanthropists and we weren't traditional social entrepreneurs. The 100-mile diet was started definitely by a 1% tile group and people who were going to that farm-to-table restaurant and spending $150 a head. What it actually does is works on a very ground level, and we can do it. We work with Soul Food Farms, who provide produce for us from 2 blocks away. We create from whole sides of beef, et cetera, the food that goes out into our neighborhood, which goes maximum 7 blocks away. So we weren't using the 100-mile diet. We were using smart business sense. There's less emission. We are ecologically concerned. We also understand it costs less if it's close. And doing all of those factors in as well, and supporting local business and supporting local community. I'm supporting Soul Food Farms and spending a little bit more but not wasting as much because they're employing people with barriers like we do, and there's a common thread. The thought of this 100-mile diet, I mean, I'd laugh about it because I think that the concept is quite laughable. To be that, okay, my beef comes from Alberta. It comes from there because I know how it's being treated. I know the farm that it comes from, the Double R Ranch. I know these people, and I trust them. It comes from there because it's also a sustainable supply. Is there a little bit more emission burn than I would like? Sure, but I know what I'm feeding everybody, and I'm comfortable with that. So there's going to be some give and take, and people being so staunch about that, ultimately, a lot of 100-mile diet restaurants fold pretty quick. I loved the talk about the organics disposal ban by 2015 because it is going to insist that people like producers and wholesalers donate more of their stuff while it's still good. So let me give you a quick anecdote. A social enterprise comes to me and we sit and we talk, and I'm doing some business acumen stuff. They're doing some neighborhood stuff with me. And I said, how was your weekend? My weekend was busy. You know, I was supposed to be off, but we had to rally a whole bunch of people because a large grocery chain had offered us bananas. And we needed it for our food programs. Like, incredible. So what did you get? They're like, it was 6 pallets. Like, that's a lot of food. Where'd you have to go? North Van from Hastings. I'm like, okay, let's just start at the beginning. So they called you to donate this stuff. What did you have to do? Like, let's go through all the steps. I'm like, why? And I said, let's just go through the steps. Rented a van, right. Took your employees who were regularly working, shut your little cafeteria, and called in all the favors. Distracted from what you actually do, went over there, picked it up, 3 trips, gas, brought it back, processed it, not enough cold storage, and you end up throwing out how much of it? And they're like, 20%. I'm like, how much did you throw away? And they're like, over half. I'm like, okay, so a bin full, which is $542.17 to remove, plus your gas burn, plus your rental, plus your staff costs, plus the impact. You could have bought those bananas 3 times over. So the grocer says, awesome on us. We donated to the people who need it the most. You've got half-rotten bananas that you're trying to produce, and it's not the grocer's fault because they just simply don't know what that impact is, and this is a model that's gone on forever. So by 2015, you can't throw this stuff in the garbage. You have to compost it. Composting, we know, costs at least a third more than garbage. For a massive single bottom line company, they're not going to be able to cope with that. So if you can present something in between and say, hey, you call me 3 days before it goes off, you donate enough for us to give it to a not-for-profit delivery system that then brings it down and processes by hiring, we got ourselves a hub. And that's a project that we're working on right now. We deal with our organic waste with one of my better friends, Louise Schwartz, who runs Recycling Alternative. So we run multi-bin programs, but more importantly, our concept is based on zero waste. So as a butcher shop attached to a diner, attached to a food program for lower income, the stuff comes in, we cut it, it has a certain amount of time it stays in the case, comes from the case, goes into the diner on a special at a low cost for the neighborhood, doesn't make it there, goes immediately into a food program, goes out to 8 to 10 SROs a day, about 600 meals a day we serve. Everything that leaves the building is literally was rotten when it got to us and gets composted, or is white bone. So that model in particular is based on costing. It's not based on doing good for the world, that's a byproduct. What it's based on is just making sense of everything that you buy. And so it's a popular model. So trying to then blueprint that and take it to all of the other areas, because the other impact of it is employment. We employ 68 people at Save On Meats. 30% of them have traditional barriers, developmental disability, addiction issues, et cetera, et cetera. And so the employment impact that we're making while doing all of this and potentially making money, we'll prove that out eventually, is huge. So the value of a conference like Globe specifically is it speaks to all different demographics. So you could be watching a Robert Kennedy Jr. talk about the upper tier stuff of the oil that we pull out of the ground and fight political wars for, et cetera, or you can talk to somebody like Sean Dory who's talking about local farms and organic and how that goes. The thing is, the people who come to these are larger corporates for the most part, or educators, et cetera, who typically don't come out to stuff like I talk at and get to see the dichotomy and how we're all speaking the same language right now. It's about water in this 21st century being more valuable than oil. All of those things are going from the top tier billionaires all the way down. Everybody understands that we have a common goal, and for people to be able to attend this at a very affordable rate, we won't name the other conferences, and be together and talk and engage and literally be with the speakers, it's invaluable. it's a conversation that me, as a speaker, I take as much away from as I put in, if not more.